All right, good morning and welcome to the information webinar on the Clean Tech Research and Development R&D Voucher Program. I'm Judith Scheft. I'm the Executive Director for the New Jersey Commission on Science, Innovation, and Technology, and I'm joined by two of my colleagues, Fatu Job and Alex Hydrin, who are colleagues from the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, who've been working with us on this program. This particular program, Clean Tech Research and Development Voucher Program, is a complement to some other programs from the CSIT in the clean tech space. We have another program, a Clean Tech Seed Grant Program, and there's information on our website about that program. You can apply for both the Clean Tech Seed Grant Program as well as the Clean Tech Voucher Program. Just a couple of logistics aspects. We'll be running through a short presentation this morning for you, talking about the program, talking about the eligibility requirements, talking about how to apply for the program. And if you've got questions, please put them in either the Q&A or the chat box down at the bottom of the Zoom panel, and we'll then get back to answer those questions for you later in the program. Again, the Clean Tech Seed Grant Program and the Clean Tech R&D Voucher Program are programs that have been supported by the Board of Public Utilities with some funding from BPU. So we're really very thankful for the collaboration between the Board of Public Utilities and EDA in putting this particular program together. This program, the Clean Tech Voucher and Asset Map Program, has a couple of objectives, and you'll see the map here and a little bit later on in the presentation. Alex will walk through some of the functionality of the asset map that we're developing, but the intent is really twofold. One is to help early stage companies become aware of the kinds of assets that we have in New Jersey at our world-class universities, as well as give them some access to those facilities. And then through the Asset Voucher Program, we want to be able to subsidize the use of those facilities for these small companies, whether they're using facilities in maker spaces or some other core laboratory facilities across New Jersey. So let's talk a little bit on the next slide about the program and its parameters. So the program, again, is to support early stage clean tech, clean energy companies and help them accelerate their development and innovation to transform their discoveries into commercially viable products, leading to new businesses, helping them connect with industry interests. This particular program has an overall budget of $435,000. Now, what are the kinds of companies for which this program is targeted? The companies need to be developing or testing technologies that are intended to avoid emissions of or recapture of greenhouse gases and or criteria pollutants, or to enable such avoidance or recapture of those gases. Projects can be in a number of different areas. It could be chemicals and advanced materials, energy distribution and storage, energy efficiency, energy generation, green buildings technology, could be products in the transportation area, waste processing, and water and agriculture. So there's a wide scope of project areas that you can be working on, but again, we're going to be asking you to demonstrate that you are doing something that is intended to avoid the emissions of or recapture of these greenhouse gases. Now, where do you need to be from a technology readiness level? It could be anything from TRL level 1, which is basic research, up to TRL level 7, which is integrated pilot and system distribution. And on the information on the website that we have, we've got more complete definitions of these various stages of development, which are taken from the Department of Energy. Now, in terms of the subsidy that's available, what kind of subsidy does the voucher program provide to these early stage companies? If your company has 10 or fewer full-time employees, calculated on a full-time equivalent basis, you can receive a subsidy of up to 75% of the cost of using the core facility. If your company is from 11 to 50 full-time employees, again calculated on a full-time equivalent basis, you can receive a 50% subsidy on the cost of using the facility. A little bit later on in the presentation, Fatou is going to show you an employee log, which is going to help you be able to track and provide us the information that we need so we can verify whether you are eligible for the 75% subsidy or the 50% subsidy for the program. In terms of the voucher size, on the next slide, you're going to see that each company can be eligible to apply for multiple vouchers up to a cap of $15,000 in aggregate over a 12-month period, starting from the issuance of your first voucher. So as an example, if as a startup company, you're doing some work with, let's say, Princeton University, and that particular voucher is $5,000, you then are eligible over this 12-month period to apply for additional vouchers that maybe you want to use at a different facility, whether it's Rutgers, Rowan, NJIT, what have you. But in the 12-month period, starting from the issuance of your first voucher, you're going to have a cap of $15,000. Each of the approved vouchers is valid for a period of 3 months from the time that you get it, and you can apply for a one-time 3-month no-cost extension that will be reviewed by the Commission on a case-by-case basis. If for whatever reason you end up having unused voucher expenses that were not utilized, they become invalid and those funds get returned to the overall main program budget for future use unless an extension was approved. The eligible uses for your voucher are to be able to use the facility, equipment, have technicians do the testing and development for you, or if there's a special training cost in preparation of your independent use of those core facilities, those are considered eligible expenses. An ineligible expense is manufacturing, having the facility manufacture products for commercial sale or commercial use. That's not what this program is intended for. It's for early stage research and development. This particular program is going to be run on a rolling application basis. So once your application is in and complete, and it's a 2-stage process that Fatou is going to talk about, we'll review the completed applications and then make approvals on a rolling basis and make awards until all of the program funds run out. And at this point, Fatou is going to talk a little bit about the application process and what you need to do to participate.
Okay, thank you, Judith. So I will just go through the application review and the approval process and let you know what about the eligibility criteria and all the documentation that you need. So the first step of the application for the Clean Tech R&D voucher is that all applicants will be expected to log on to the online portal, application portal. The address will be displayed on the CSIT website on April 5th when the program is expected to open. The application is a twofold application. The first step is that the applicant will be asked basic questions to provide information on the applicant, the name of the company, and also information on the project. Here we would ask you to just briefly describe what project you're working on. And again, it needs to be tied to the 9 areas that Judith mentioned earlier. And then you would also be asked information if you know the information to provide on which facility you hope to work with. If an applicant does not have that information, it is okay. There is a review committee that will look at your project proposal and assign you to the relevant facility. The applicant on step 1 will also answer questions on eligibility. This is just to make sure that once an application moves from step 1 to step 2 to ultimately step 7, the applicant is already deemed eligible for the program. So there is a point on the application portal that once the applicant provides all these information, the application is stopped at that point. A copy of your responses will get emailed to CSIT for review. Once we get a copy of the first step of the application, CSIT will review it to make sure that all the eligibility questions have been answered and all the information has been provided by the applicant. If there is any information that is missing or incomplete, we would get in touch with the applicant again via email, and we would ask you to provide that information. Once CSIT reviews the application, there is a university committee review that is already in place. This is made up of representatives from each of the university facilities that are represented in the program. So they would review, one, the applicant information and the project information. They would look at what the applicant wants to do. If the applicant has indicated the facility that they wish to work with, if the applicant has indicated what is the need for the voucher, they would review all of that and then assign the application to the relevant facility. It is on, then the application gets moved to step 4. This is the facility review and the negotiation. It is actually the facility now that will contact the applicant to for the applicant to proceed. The facility and the applicant will review the scope of work. What is the need that what is the voucher need that the applicant wants to work in? What is their request? The facility will review that. And if there are any IP negotiations, it is between the facility and the applicant. CSIT is not a party to it. Whatever the facility application process is for the voucher to be approved or for the work to be approved, the applicant and the facility will sign those application documentation. So there isn't any additional layer that CSIT is putting on it. Once the facility and the applicant hash out all the detail and the facility has agreed that it is willing and able to do the work for the voucher, then the facility will issue to the applicant an approval letter for the voucher. Once an applicant gets the approval letter for the voucher, it is ready to move on to the second part of the CSIT application. It is at that time that the applicant will email CSIT and indicate that it has been able to secure an approval letter from a participating university, and CSIT will issue a submission code. Once you log off the application portal from step 1, it would not let you come back to it unless you submit the submission code. Once you get that submission code from CSIT, please log back onto the portal, enter the submission code, and then it would ask you to submit all of the required documentation, including the approval letter. I will go through the required documentation in the subsequent slides, what documentations are needed for step 5 and step 1. So once you submit all the required documentation, CSIT will then review the voucher approval letter, and will then review your documentation and your application, and it will issue you a voucher approval letter. So your 3 months period that Judith talked about will start from the date that you were issued the voucher approval letter, not the date that you applied. So once you have the voucher approval letter, the applicant and the university can go ahead and start the work. If the applicant needs an extension, a one-time extension, it can alert CSIT via email that it is applying for the extension. CSIT will get in touch with the university and then review that and approve or not approve the extension. It is also during that time that CSIT, the applicant and the university will all be expected to execute a voucher agreement, which will be signed by all 3 parties. Once the work has been completed at the facility, the applicant is just expected to submit to CSIT a project completion report. And on your project completion report, just detail out what was the scope of work that was achieved during the voucher period for the voucher that was approved. And this is the process for all vouchers that are issued by CSIT. So let's say an applicant within the 12-month period had 3 vouchers. This is the process. We would need a project completion report for each of the vouchers that CSIT issues. In terms of the eligibility criteria for the program, step 1, before an applicant applies to the CSIT portal, on the CSIT portal, there are certain eligibility criteria that needs to be met by the applicant, and these are the questions that will be asked to determine the eligibility. 1, Is the project in the area of clean tech, clean energy space that Judith defined before? If it is a yes, an applicant is eligible. Applicants are also expected to be registered to conduct business in New Jersey, and the documentation we'll be asking for that it's the current tax clearance certificate and it is listing CSIT. Also, the voucher program is for companies and businesses that have no more than 50 full-time employees, and this is full-time equivalent, and this is calculated on a full-time equivalent basis, working 35 hours per week at the time of application. So at the time of application, again, very important, a company should not have more than 50 full-time employees calculated on an FTE basis to be eligible for the program. Also, at the time of application, the company must have at least one minimum full-time employee. Again, this is counted on a full-time equivalent basis, working 35 hours per week. And also, whatever project that the voucher is being sought for, 100% of that project work has to be conducted in New Jersey. So on step one, these are the eligibility criteria that the applicant is expected to qualify for. At step 5, which is the application submission, an applicant can only submit or be issued a submission code if it has been able to obtain a signed approval letter from the facility or federal lab confirming that the research facility is capable and willing to provide the services that is being supported by the voucher. So once an applicant is able to get an approval letter from the university, it is at that time that they can start the submission process. In terms of the application and required documentation, step 1, once an applicant starts the online application, it is expected to provide information, again, on the applicant themselves, on the project work, but also in addition to the online application, there is a signed application certification that the applicant needs to fill out, and the applicant would also need to fill out the legal debarment questionnaire by CSIT. It is on step 5 that the applicant will submit all of the required documents. It is at that point that they should have been able to obtain the approval letter from the university or the federal lab. So when it comes to submit its document after it has been issued the submission code 1, it will submit the most recent internal payroll. I will go through the log momentarily. And also submit any employee documentation. So whatever number of employees you put on the log, there should be supporting documentation for that. This can be the federal 941, the NJWR 30, the 1099 shareholder agreement, or the K1. Each applicant is also expected to submit a tax clearance certificate that is issued to the Commission on Science, Innovation, and Technology. Very important, when you log onto the Premier Business Portal, the first option is not always CSIT, so make sure you click on the drop-down menu and select CSIT. Any tax clearance that CSIT gets that does not list CSIT will be automatically returned to the applicant, and they will be asked to provide a tax clearance listing CSIT. Also, the applicant should also provide the approval letter that is obtained from the New Jersey University and the federal lab. I will now in terms of employees. Give me a second.
Well, Fatu is pulling up the employee log. One of the reasons we wanted to go through this particular portion of the application is we found in the past, this has been an area where there's been probably the most confusion on some of the other programs with companies in terms of filling out the information so that we can verify the number of employees you have, so we can determine whether you're going to be eligible for the 75% voucher or the 50% voucher. So it's really important that you fill this out completely.
Are you able to see the log?
Yes, we can see the log, Fatu.
Okay, so this is the employee log that each applicant is expected to fill out. So where it has the employee needs to put the company name, signature, the name and time, the position of the company, the date that the employee was hired, and what type of employee is it? Is it a full-time employee? Is it a part-time employee, a contractor, intern? However the company qualifies that employee. Also here, very important, please indicate how many hours per week that employee works for the company. This is very important for each of the employee. We need the number of hours that they work per week because since the program calculates full-time employees on an FTE equivalent basis, we need this number. And also very important, is the employee working in New Jersey? Based on experience, we've had a couple of applications where there was a lot of confusion on working in New Jersey and outside of New Jersey, given that it is COVID times and a lot of people are working remotely. I might be working for a company in New Jersey, however, my place of residence is in Pennsylvania. So I would indicate that I'm a Pennsylvania employee, that I work in Pennsylvania just because I live, but where the employee is working is the primary place of business for the employee. So even though I reside in Pennsylvania, my primary place of work is in New Jersey. So if the employee is working in New Jersey, their office space, their primary place of employment is in New Jersey, please indicate yes. If, for example, you have a part-time employee or contractor that works outside of New Jersey, that is, you hire from the date of hire, they were considered an outside employee, please indicate that, New Jersey. Also, please indicate the primary work location address, not the residential address for the employee, but their primary work location. That is what we're using to determine whether the employee is in New Jersey or outside of New Jersey, not the resident, but the primary work location here. Also indicate if the employee is getting a salary, yes or no. Please indicate that. If the employee is either getting or not getting a salary, also, please indicate if that employee has equity in the business. Again, this is a yes or no. There are some companies that an employee is not taking any salary, however, they have equity in the company. Please indicate that. And what verification document are you using to verify the employee? For example, if it's a W-2, indicate that and make sure you attach that W-2. If you're providing the 1099 as a verification, please indicate a 1099 and attach that. If it's the federal 941, indicate that. If it's a New Jersey WR30, please indicate that. If an employee, for example, is an intern or please indicate the offer letter, put here offer letter and please provide the offer letter. Or if they're not deriving any salary, but they have equity, please provide the shareholder agreement. Whatever verification documents you put in here, it will have to be provided to CSIT so that we can verify that. So this employee log is very, very important, and fill it out for each employee that the company has. And this is, again, full-time, part-time, contractor, or intern. Please fill this log. We will use this log to calculate if you meet the minimum of having at least one full-time employee at the time of application, and all the employee eligibility criteria for the voucher program. So I would just go back to the presentation for now. Let me know if you're able to see the screen.
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay, so when you come to submit again the application, the payroll log that I just went through is the first document that should be uploaded with all the verification document, whatever employees you put on it. Again, we need a tax clearance certificate listing the Commission on Science, Innovation, and Technology, and an approval letter from the participating university. There are certain terms and conditions of the voucher agreement that each applicant is expected to uphold. One is just to ensure commitment to New Jersey. Each voucher awardees will agree that 100% that its employees and contractors will conduct 100% of the project work in New Jersey for a period of 6 months from the effective date of the voucher. So if, let's say before six months, an applicant moves some aspects of the project outside of New Jersey, they would be expected to repay the full grant within 60 days of relocation. Also reporting, we will be providing an economic impact questionnaire with the voucher agreement that each awardee is expected to complete for a period of 1 year after the voucher has completed. And also CSIT will be hosting additional events just to show about the program experience and all of that. And awardees may be invited to participate in such alumni events, such as if conducting interviews about the program experience or explaining a bit about their company. So that is something that each awardees will be expected, may be called for. Again, very, very important because based on our previous experiences with running programs, CSIT programs, we have some important information that we would like to flag. One is read the notice of funding. There are a lot of details on the notice of funding about the program and about the eligibility criteria, about the required documentation and the process. So please make sure you read the notice of funding. And also, as we get questions about the programs, we will be answering it in a form of a FAQ document that we will post on the CSIT web page, program page. So make sure you read the FAQ document. You keep reading it because we update it as we get questions. So sometimes it can be updated daily, sometimes weekly. So please make sure you refer to the FAQ documents for any questions that you might have first. It may have already been answered, and if not, please feel free to send CSIT an email with the question that you have. We are happy to answer any questions that you might have. So please feel free to send in the questions, but first, please read the notice of funding, very important to stress, and also the FAQ document. Again, the application portal will open April 5th, and at 9 a.m., please feel free, if you have a voucher need, please feel free to log on to the portal and apply. We are accepting applications on a rolling basis as long as the program funds are available. Also, very important, all communications with applicants on the program will be through the CSIT email address, csit@njedia.com. To make sure that our emails are not going to your junk folder, because we've had this before, please add it to your safe inbox. So whenever we communicate to you about the program, especially, it would be via csit@njedia.com. Once an applicant, as explained before, once an applicant has been able to obtain the approval letter from the participating facility, please send an email to CSIT that you are ready to proceed to the next stage of the application and you have the approval letter. If you do not add the code to the online portal, it would not let you continue your application. So please send an email to CSIT and we'll provide you the submission code to continue your application and enable you to submit any required documentation. So please send an email to CSIT once you've completed that process. In terms of electronic signature options, the CSIT application certification, all CSIT applications need to be certified by the company CEO or representative saying that all the information that they've provided for this application is through. The online application portal has the document uploaded there, and the applicant is able to provide an electronic signature or print it out, sign it, and upload it. However, if an applicant is not comfortable with that and they want to mail in a wet signature or hard copy, they would need to download the form from the website, sign it, and send in mail in a hard copy to CSIT. The address is on there. It's also on the notice of funding. Email it to Judith, mail it to Judith at the EDA Trenton office. Once you do that, please also send in an email indicating that you have mailed in the document, so that, because there's limited personnel at the office, so that we are able to look out for that mail. And that is only if you are not comfortable with doing an electronic signature. Also, the tax clearance is a state document that needs to be obtained, and we know that it's COVID times. There are some processing delays. So if you would like to just submit your documents and, fast track your application or start your application and process, please start early and make sure, because there might be delays in getting some of the state documents. Once an applicant applies for tax clearance, if it's the first time, they will send you an email that they're reviewing your application and will get back to you within 3 business days. You should be able to get a notification that you are able to go in and print your tax clearance within those 3 business days. However, if you wish to just submit and put in your application without the tax clearance, you can send us a note indicating that you have started the process and you're waiting for the 3 days, and we would go ahead and start the review of your application for that. So now I would hand over to Alex, my colleague Alex. We also have a Clean Tech Asset Map, a very exciting map that Alex worked very hard on. So he would go through the Clean Tech Asset Map for you.
Great, thank you, Vatu. Hi everyone, I'm Alex. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the Clean Tech Asset Map.
And again, the asset map is really going to help you when you're filling out your initial request for use of a university facility. You may know which facility you'd like to work with. You may not know which facility you think might be the appropriate one to work with, and the asset map will help you identify resources that may be appropriate for your need.
Great, yeah, thank you, Judith, for clarifying a bit. So here is the asset map. Right now I have it displaying university research facilities. These would be the facilities at the listed universities on the side here that have core facilities that would have laboratory equipment and different things that would be applicable to the voucher program. So there's a few different ways that you can use the map. You can see it's based off of Google Maps. So if you use Google Maps, it's fairly similar and user-friendly. The easiest, most straightforward way is if you, let's say you had an office somewhere near Edison here in New Brunswick, you could zoom in and see what facilities are in the general vicinity of where you're located if you were trying to find facilities near where you worked. So you could select one. Here's the advanced microscopy shared resource at Rutgers with a summary, their address, their website, and different information. So you can search easily just by selecting straight from the map. Another way that could be useful, let's say you already had a relationship working with Rutgers University and you wanted to continue doing work with them, you can just click the drop down here and it will list all of the different research facilities associated with Rutgers. You can select each one and, similar to before, bring it up, have their website, a little bit of a description of what they do, some contact information if it's been given and is available. And then the third and maybe most useful way to search this map, let's say there's a specific type of equipment that you need to use. There's a search function here up at the top. Let's say it's a diffractometer. So you type in diffractometer and you can see there's 2 facilities that have diffractometers. Here's one. You can click on that. Here's Stockton University has a diffractometer, and this particular facility has already provided a list of all of the equipment that they have. So you can see what other equipment they might have that you could use, or you can go back and look at Princeton's PRISM Imaging and Analysis Center, who also has a list here of all of the different equipment that they have. So a couple of different ways that you could use the map to try to find the resources that you need to do your research within the state. As we continue to build out the map, we're looking to and excited to incorporate a few other functions and resources. You can see these other check marks I don't have on here selected right now. Here's some university research centers. These would be facilities that don't necessarily have laboratory equipment, but they do work related to clean tech research. So Montclair, for instance, has the Clean Energy and Sustainability Analytics Center with a short description there. Rutgers, NJIT, Stevens all have facilities that don't necessarily have those laboratory equipment that would be directly applicable to this voucher program, but could provide guidance and resources for you as you do your R&D. And then additionally, some entrepreneurship centers, some associated directly with different universities, and then also the small business development centers throughout the state. And then lastly, as we continue to build out this functionality, some other research and development resources that might become available, such as venture capital accelerators and incubators. So a lot of exciting things that we're hoping to incorporate into this map, primarily for the purposes of this voucher program, though it'll be this first functionality here, the research facilities with those core facilities that you can use. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Fatu and Judith.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex. I will now share the last slide. So again, thank you. That was the end of our webinar presentation. Thank you for joining us. Again, just as a reminder, the application portal will open up April 5th at 9 a.m. So please feel free to go in and start the first section of the application. The map that Alex shared will also be posted on the CSIT webpage. If you do not know what facility you wish to work at, please feel free to go through the map. If still you are not sure what facility, please indicate that in your online application. I do not know what facility. We have a university review committee again who would look at the work that you want to do, who is made up of representatives from each of the facilities that are represented. So once they look at the work, they will be in a position to determine what facility is best suited for the need that you're looking for, and they'll be happy enough to point the application to that facility. So if you are not sure what facility you want to work with, but you know what voucher need you have, please indicate that. And CSIT and the University Review Committee will do their best to assign the application to the most relevant facility, or they will give you a call to understand what more you want to do. So please feel free to start your application. We will work with you to make sure that we get you through the voucher approval process. If you have any questions, again, please feel free to email csit@njeda.com. We are here for you. If there's any questions that you have, please just let us know. And thank you for joining us. And we hope to receive as much applications as possible. And please let your colleagues know, people in the clean tech ecosystem in New Jersey, please let them know that there's this voucher program available, and we would love to work with our universities and our small clean tech companies in New Jersey. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatu. A couple of things. If you have any questions right now, please put them in either the chat or the Q&A. We have some more time available that we're here to be able to answer questions for you. One thing I did want to say, when you go on to the CSIT webpage, you may have to scroll down a little bit till you get to the section which indicates the various grants available from the CSIT, different programs that we have. So you may have to scroll down. It might not be right at the top of the webpage. So please be patient, scroll down a little bit till you find the relevant information. There was one question that was asked about the slides and presentation that we've given today. We will be posting on the CSIT website both a copy of the slides that we have shown. We will also have posted a copy of that employee log that Fatu showed, and we will be posting a copy of the video webinar so that you'll be able to re-listen to what we're saying as we've gone through the presentation. So again, if you need some additional resources, it'll be on the CSIT website. And as Fatu said, we're certainly happy to answer any questions that anyone has. Again, as a clarification question, because I've had this in the past on some of the other programs, if you have applied for the Clean Tech Seed Grant, you may still also apply for the Clean Tech Voucher Program. Those programs are being scored and reviewed separately, so it could be conceivable that you would be receiving a Clean Tech Seed Grant and a Clean Tech Voucher. There, one does not implicate how you may get scored on the other program. Again, the other point to be really sensitive to is the employee log and being able to count the full-time equivalent. So it's based on the number of hours that the employees are working both inside and outside of New Jersey. We're going to be doing the mathematics to ensure we're going to add up the hours of people working in New Jersey, hours people working outside of New Jersey, to ensure that you meet the eligibility requirements. Taking a quick look, I do not seem to see any questions in either the chat or the Q&A area. Again, we're really excited about this program. We think it's really the first voucher program that CSIT has been launching in partnership with the Board of Public Utilities and EDA. And we're hoping that if this program is successful, we'll be able to extend it to other technology areas as well. So maybe we'll just wait a minute or two to see if anyone has any questions. And if not, you can certainly, again, email us with questions as you're going through the application process. Okay, well, I'm not seeing any questions again, and I realize sometimes these questions may come up as you're starting to do the application. Again, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We look forward to being able to work with early stage companies in New Jersey's clean tech ecosystem and being able to provide the resources from our world-class universities to help support the innovation ecosystem in New Jersey. Thank you very much.